Welcome to the Diaries of a Daily Disciple. I'm your host, Jesse Montanez, and I'm so excited for you to be here today, where we have our special guest, Holland King, where we'll be discussing dating, relationships, and even breakups, and how Jesus Christ can help us through these interesting times as a young adult. So, Holland, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to get talking about this topic, but before we get started, we'd love to hear a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I was born and raised here in San Diego native. I love it. Go Padres. Yeah, I'm 22. I went to BYU, Idaho for a year. Dive into that more later. Just wasn't in the right time in my life. I moved home about 2 years ago, I want to say. Yeah, I just work full time. So it's pretty fun. Love it here.
Great. Well, yeah. So we're excited for you to be here, and I kind of asked Holland on here. She's one of my good friends, and we've had some deep discussions about these topics. So just felt like it was the right person, and can kind of give that female perspective to kind of argue my male perspective. We got a lot to talk about, so let's just go ahead and dive in. So, in your experience, kind of just with dating, how would you describe how you've kind of navigated that in your life and what you've seen, whether it be online dating or dating in the church, not dating.
Yeah. Wow, honestly, I feel like, gosh, it can be very intricate or very bland depending on where you are. But I think for me, I don't know, just a lot of my personal life choices kind of led to almost a very toxic way of dating and just like the things that happened. And being in San Diego, there's not a lot to choose from, as you know. Like, especially being a member of the church, like there's great people here, there's great members, but they are either married already or they're here for a short period of time or there's just other factors. And so the dating pool, I feel like it's just not it here. And I've had my fair share of dating members and non-members through meeting in person and dating apps.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree. I think it's funny you say that. I don't know how true it is, but I saw this whole thing on Instagram, and it wasn't even like a member talking about it, but he's like, the worst place to date is in San Diego. There's a bunch of great people, but like either they don't want to settle down or they're married or it's just not the right time for them. And then, yeah, just kind of getting to the church aspect, I was talking about this with someone today, but it's like, okay, you start with an ocean, right? Everybody goes like, just there's plenty of fish in the sea, like, and there's this huge ocean. Well, then you kind of bring it in. Well, do I want to date in the church? And then
Yeah.
you talk about your morals, and then you see if someone, has the same values as you. And then you kind of get down to it, and it's like, no, dude, I'm actually like fishing in a pond.
Seriously, like it's there. People, like you said, people say there's an ocean, but when it comes to dating within the church, especially outside of Utah, I feel like you're dating in a pond. It's very small and it's really hard.
Yeah, totally agree. So I guess that kind of brings me to the next topic and kind of talking with dating apps.
Mhm.
So I guess for you, what's kind of been your experience with dating apps? Are you a fan of them? Are you against them? Do you feel like it's, you got to just go through the numbers game and eventually you'll find one?
Honestly, I've been on probably every dating app out there. And you get what you sign up for. And especially as a member of the church, like, let's just be honest, we've all been on Mutual at least once in our lives, in our dating lives. And as hard as Mutual is to be on, it's the only one that I've really found you find good people. And not that there's not good people on other dating apps, it's just really hard to date on like Tinder and Bumble. And let's just be real, dating on Tinder is not existent. That is its whole other culture in itself. And it's extremely different and it puts you in a different mindset that can kind of be harmful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm guilty of being on Mutual, and it's just one of those things where like you log on, and even on Mutual, like there's great girls, there's, great people on there, but everybody can admit, like, when you get on a dating app, and this is just my opinion, but you kind of become more shallow.
100%. It's kind of crazy.
Like, you kind of get on there and you're like, okay, well, maybe. And then you're like, and then it's like 12 swipes, no. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just keep going. And then like I've done it and you just get to a point where it's just like, "What am I doing? Like, this doesn't feel great." If anything, it makes
Yeah.
me feel worse about dating. Um, so it's crazy. I saw this stat. It was a dating coach, but they were talking about how, like, when you're on a dating app, you kinda have to, as bad as it sounds, lower how picky you are.
That's so true. Like, quick story, my brother, so I'm the youngest of 3, if that says anything about me and my personality, and, there was one day, me and my, like, best friend, Jen, we were sitting there and my brother was there and I was swiping through Mutual, and I was like, "No, no, no," and my brother was like, "You're never gonna meet anyone doing that, like that." He's like, "You could meet somebody on there, but you're just saying no to everyone based on their looks," and I was like, "I have to be attracted to them," and then I was like, "Okay, I need to grow up a little bit," and it stuck in my head that, like, okay, not that I'm lowering my standards, but be open.
Yeah, it's more like be open-minded, and I think this might sound bad, but kinda having that Christ mentality of like, yes, they're a child of God, like, okay, they may not be that top 10% that everybody's swiping for, but
Yeah,
it could be a great person, and honestly, some of the best conversations I've had have been with, some of the girls that it was just like, "Okay, well, let's just go for it, like, who cares?"
exactly, yeah.
And I think that's been one thing that's been a challenge with dating is I think everybody always focuses on the attraction.
Mhm.
And that's great, but it's like, okay, well, deep down, what's gonna matter in 10 years when the attraction, like, hopefully it stays your whole marriage or whatever, but like in 10 years, like we're all gonna be different people, our looks are gonna fade. Like everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do we relate? And I don't think like you have to find that perfect person, but like when you, I'm not going to say lower your standards, but when you become more open minded and you actually get to know someone, I think that's big, especially with dating apps. So, they do talk about the numbers game and it is a numbers game, it is challenging, people are putting themselves out there. I'm not the only one that's done mutual. You're not the only one that's done
Yeah.
mutual. Like
Yeah.
we talk about it in our friend groups, and just as a guy, it's like it's hard to put yourself out there, but like the biggest thing I've learned is just go for it.
Couldn't agree more, like, you just have to put yourself out there to meet people, and the thing that I feel grateful for about living here is I feel like our region really tries to do regional YSA things, which, like, we have our regional YSA, uh, meeting coming up this Sunday, and I'm really excited because it forces you to meet people outside of your ward, and even though I feel like a lot of us grew up together and we have friends in other wards and stuff like that, like and people already know each other, it puts us outside that bubble a little bit more, and we really get to, like, know people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's also a challenge just kind of moving into the wards. It's like that in itself is your own challenge. Like
Oh, 100%.
you're in a great ward and there's a bunch of great people, but it's just like it's one of those things. It's like you don't find your person. It's like, okay, well, let's ward hop, let's do all these things. So I think it's great what you talk about, especially because like we're coming from wards that are like what 50 people.
Yeah, small, very small. It was one of the biggest shocks coming home from BYU, Idaho, because I was already attending a YSA ward here before I left, and it was easy, it felt comfortable because I was going with people I went to high school with and their older siblings and my brother before he got married and stuff, and then when I moved back, I feel like San Diego is like a train stop, like, people come in and out all the time, and so when I came back, I went back to that initial ward and I took the sacrament and I left because I was like, I know no one here. And like, I have anxiety. I have diagnosed anxiety. And I was just sitting there and I was like, I cannot handle this. This just does not feel right. I think I ward hopped for 8 months before I joined the YSA ward we met in.
Yeah, I mean, I've only known the one YSA I've had, but it's kind of been that same thing. Like one of the challenges, talking, just kind of going out there is like I'm older.
Hmm.
I'm not old, but like
No, yeah.
I'm getting to 30, and it's like great. Well, as these wards kind of turn over and people get married, it's like yeah, there's an 18 to 21-year-old kind of presence, but it's like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna date that. So
Yeah.
it kind of becomes like at one point you just kind of have to ward off and put yourself out there.
No, 100%.
And I think that's, like you're talking about, I think they do a great job with regional activities and, sometimes it's intimidating because you go to regional activity and it's like friend group, friend group, friend group, friend group.
Exactly, people will have their
And
cliques.
I would say, like, my best advice for that for anybody who's like, "Well, yeah, I've gone to the regional activities and I just haven't had any luck," is grab a friend and play Have You Met Ted? For anybody who's watched How I Met Your Mother, like, have your friend and just be like, "Hey, have you met my friend so and so?" And I think for the guys is, like, bring a friend that's a girl and a guy so that you guys can, like, team up because it's one of those things that's a lot easier when, like, a girl is with you and she's mingling in and kinda then introduces you. I guess that would be my advice.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think back to the first time I went to institute in the ward, like, I knew Brother Bingham, our teacher, through my mom because my mom taught seminary. Aurora, you know
Yeah.
Aurora. He walked up to me after class without fail, didn't even skip a beat, just, "So who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm Holland. I'm just kinda new to the ward." And she's like, "Okay, great. So, like, let me get your number. Let's hang out. Let's do this. Let's do that." And she's become one of my best friends, and she's amazing. She's on a mission now, and I'm so proud of her, but it's really, like, that example, put yourself out there. Do not be afraid to just go up to somebody. Who cares if you look weird or stupid or awkward, like, it doesn't matter. Just put yourself out there because you don't know who you could become friends with or who you could meet through those people.
Yeah. I mean, we always jokingly say is when we're going to an activity is, "My future wife could be there."
Yeah,
Like, that's a running joke, but in all honesty, like,
it's true.
they could be there.
Yeah,
You just
truly.
gotta put yourself out there, and I know it's a lot easier said than done. I'm sometimes the chicken when it comes to that, but it's kinda like, tell yourself this, would you rather be comfortable or would you rather be happy? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one awkward conversation, but guess what? It's just as awkward for that person that you're trying to have that conversation with, especially if they think you're cute.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So, just kinda to move it a little bit forward, with dating. So what do you think dating with intention kinda means, and what does that look like for you?
Well, I think as I've gotten older, it's been more forced to be put into perspective for me just because, I have a sister who got married at 20, and that has put a lot of pressure on myself. Like, not that there's outside pressure, it's just me. I internalize everything and I overthink it. And so it's like that pressure of like, oh my gosh, I'm 22, I'm not married yet. Like, that's crazy. And then I look at my brother who got married at 26 and all these other people. But it really comes down to where your mindset is at. And truthfully, your relationship with Christ. Um, the people we choose to surround ourselves with has the biggest influence on who we marry and who we date. And I know I've seen that in my dating experiences. I know you've seen that through my dating experiences and stuff. I was dating someone about a year ago and they weren't really a member of the church, but they would come to church and then they would go out and drink with their buddies on the weekend and I would have to deal with that. And it just put me in a really negative headspace. And it really made me rethink things of like, okay, who do I truly want to surround myself with? And like, where do I want to go in my dating life? Where do I see myself in 10 years? Who do I want to marry? How do I want my marriage to look? You know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think for me, this has changed probably a lot recently. I don't think I really understood what it meant to date intentionally. Kind of with me, I didn't grow up in the church and like, yeah, it was always I was a member but inactive. But for me, it was just kind of like find someone you like, find someone you can spend your life with. It was just like, there wasn't the values part of it or the how do we relate it to Christ, but I think one thing that's kinda stuck out for me a lot lately is whoever you're gonna marry is a son or a daughter of God, and, like, you wanna become the best person that you can be because they deserve that respect. It kinda putting it into perspective, it's, okay, this person was gonna if say your future daughter was gonna date someone like you or future son, whoever, um what would you want that person to look like? And for me, that has hit me to the core because it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, well, gut check time. Am I doing the right things? Am I centering my life around Christ? Saying what am I doing what I'm saying? And for me, that's just kind of changes like, okay, God comes first.
Mhm.
Your priorities come first. And I think if you're doing those right things and then dating comes along, it's like, okay, you're doing all the right things. Dating should be the next thing that you're like, okay, well, I want to date this girl, but I want to show her respect as if, it's a daughter of God.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that I'm giving her respect of I'm not talking to multiple girls. I'm focused on her. I'm listening to what she has to say and what her boundaries are. Like, I think it all just kind of comes down to that is if we think about Jesus Christ and bringing him into our relationship, that's going to be the biggest thing, especially when it's just starting off dating.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing I think of is, my grandma and her relationship with my grandpa because, my this is my mom's parents. So, the whole they're my sorry, my mom's dad, his whole side of the family is Italian Catholic. My grandfather was raised Italian Catholic, and unfortunately, I never got to meet him. He passed away when my mom was 13. But the stories I hear from my mom and my uncles and my grandma, it is just the biggest example to me of what not only a good relationship should be, but what a good Christ-centered relationship should be. Um, because so Italian Catholic and my grandma was raised a member of the church and she had a standard. She was like, "This is my standard. I want to marry a member of the church. I want to raise my kids in it, and I'm not going to settle." Like that's just not something I'm willing to budge on, and this is what I want. And if you're not willing to even think about it, sorry, hard pass. I'm not even going to, just entertain the idea. And not that my grandpa joined the church for my grandma, but from what I've heard, his mindset was, "Okay, well, why is this so important to her?" Like, "If this is such a big deal, what's it all about?" And he eventually started taking discussions with the missionaries and joined the church, and, I don't know what age my mom was, but she was old enough to remember the day she got sealed to her family and her parents in the temple, and her 2 little brothers were there, and just that love and the sacrifice my grandfather made for our family, because I don't think I would be the person I am today if that didn't happen. It's just the biggest blessing, and I feel like it's such a cool story, and it's like it's the best example to me of what it should look like.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that story. I think it does um really kind of tell you what love means.
Mhm.
Um I was gonna add something to that and I forgot it. So let's go ahead and move on.
That's
And if it
okay.
comes back,
That's
we'll
okay.
kind of move on with that. So okay, you kind of touched on it earlier.
Mhm.
Don't really want to get too deep into this because we
Yeah.
all kind of have jokes about it. But
Yeah.
you talked about the pressure that you have on yourself. Do you feel like there's pressure on the outside world with the church and advice you'd give to someone who may be feeling pressure from either their parents or friends who are married that are just like, dude, like you're getting older? Because, there's this thing where it's like, okay, I get home from my mission,
Yeah.
let's get married.
Yeah.
And that's great. And, family proclamation, it says get married, have a bunch of kids and, go ahead and I think that's great, but it's also like it's not something you rush into.
Agree. No, I love that because I feel as if there's such a stigma about it, especially in the church, and, um, I don't know, I think my biggest advice, like you said, don't rush into it. Um, that's something I've really had to overcome and think about a lot in my head is that in your gosh, my sister got married at 20. She was gonna be 19 and it got pushed back, but still very young. And I have a lot of friends from college and high school that have got married really young. And if that's right for you, then so be it. Do it. Pray about it, make sure it's right. If that's your plan, then that is Heavenly Father's plan for you. But If you're 24, 25, 26, 30, 32, you're not married yet, it's not the end of the world. It's gonna come, you know? And you just have to be patient and give it time. I think about a lot of close friends because, like I said, I'm the youngest, so I was friends with a lot of my sister's siblings, or not siblings, friends. Um, and some of them have gone through really hard things. They got married at really young ages, and most of them are divorced now. And I think that's a big thing that's coming up in the church lately is all these kids get married really young, a couple years later they're divorced. And not that that's a horrible thing. Everyone's situation is different and those divorces happen for different reasons, but it really makes you slow down and think about who you're dating and where you're going in your relationships.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think you kind of hit it nail on the head. I think, like you said, you get married, great.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you're whenever you get married, it's like one of the biggest decisions of your life. Like they literally, I think that's the biggest thing that I would say is like you're choosing them for eternity.
Mhm.
Um, and like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
I I also think that it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's 100% a choice, and I think that, if you're going into it going, "I'm gonna choose this person every day of my life, no matter what," great. But it's also the thing where, if you're young and even as you're getting older, I think that it's not something you rush into. I've definitely learned that with myself is heck, do I hate being single at, 28? Yeah, I do. But I also think that I have a lot to learn. And I think that God's going to bring me my future wife when the time is right. And I think that's what letting go and giving it to God because, you know, you could have the right person in front of your face and not be ready for it. And you just kinda, I don't say you drop the ball because you learn from every experience you have dating, non-dating, but
Yeah.
I think it's you're gonna know when the time is ready, and I don't think it's something you rush because when you rush is when you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me to admit, but it's one of those things where I fall head over heels and it's like, "Okay, let's go. What's the next step?"
Yeah.
When it's really like, "No, let's be patient and let's figure this out."
Yeah, 100%. I think of my brother and his wife, they got married back in March, and I love my sister-in-law with my whole heart. She is just the best. Like, she's so fun, and she's so spunky, and we were really good friends before they started dating, and, um it was so funny. I was working close to where she lived at the time, and we had all kinda met through, like, going line dancing and hanging out and stuff from their YSA. She called me one day and she was like, "Holland, I need you to come over to the house when you're off work." And I was like, "Okay." Like, "Yeah, I'm down." I walked in and she's just sprawled out on the floor and, like, shaking her head, and I was like, "Sammy, what's wrong? Like, are you okay?" And she was like, "Holland, I think I like your brother. Are you gonna hate me?" And I was like, "I'm not gonna hate you, Sammy. I love you, you know?" And they're the cutest, but Sammy is 30, I think, but she's in her 30s. She's in her early 30s. And my brother's 26. And there's a pretty solid age gap. It's not a bad age gap. Age gaps are okay, you know? Um, but it just takes time, and she and I have talked about dating a lot because she knows that I'm younger and I'm dating and I'm trying to figure it out, and, um, not to air out her stuff, she had dated a lot of people, and there were some long-term stuff in there and also short-term people in there, and she figured it out and she waited, and, um, funny enough, she served a mission for a little while and got called to San Diego. She's from Utah. And I don't remember for whatever reason, but she ended up having to go home early. And she knew for a fact that the reason she was sent on her mission was to realize how much she loved San Diego and how much she wanted to go back. She moved here 2 years ago, and about a year into it, met my brother, and then a year later, they were married, you know? And that was her journey, and, like, my brother, I love him. He's one of my best friends. He and I there was a point where we did not get along at all, but there's no one else I would rather confide in about this stuff because we share a lot of similar experiences. But there was a time in his life where he was not ready to get married at all. And I will fully admit that. Like, I love him to death, but there was a time where I was like, yeah, not now. You're not getting married now. You're not in the right headspace. But seeing where they met, how they met, and where they both were at in their lives, I don't think it would have lined up any other perfect way.
Yeah, I think you said it all. I think, as speaking from personal experience or speaking just kind of in general as an older person, and from things I've seen, is it's like, okay, you're gonna meet the right person at the right time, and it's gonna be, God's timing is never wrong,
Never.
never wrong. And I think with relationships, we're just like, I'm gonna do it my way, and this is what's gonna happen, and we're good. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, let's just trust in God. Let's
Mhm.
trust in His timing. And yes, you may meet the first person, and you may go on one date with him and be like, "This is my eternal companion."
Yep.
Or you may date 50 people, you may do all these things and not find it, and it's just like, okay, great, but what did it teach you?
Yeah.
And then what is it getting you ready for in the next step? I think one of the things too is like, and this is all humans, I saw some statistics, but it's like when you're going, and this also goes with dating intentionally, but when you're dating, are you dating because you're lonely and because you don't want to be alone, or are you dating because you're comfortable with yourself?
Are you ready for
Are
that?
you ready for that next? Because let's just all be honest. Relationships are hard.
Oh,
Relationships are probably one of the hardest things you do in your life.
they're so
Your partner will annoy you, your partner will push all your buttons, and yes, you'll have those happy moments, but relationships are work. And
Mhm.
I think it's like you talked about with your brother, like not being mentally ready. Like, I think as a man, especially, it's like, okay, dude, let's get your stuff together.
Yeah.
Let's get to that point where it's like you're confident in yourself, and you know who you are. Because I think one thing that I've learned is, I don't want to say need to have toxic masculinity, but you need to have that masculine energy that, like, a girl comes up to you and she's just like, I can be in my safe place.
Yeah.
And I think as a man, that's your job. And that's one thing that I'm learning is like, okay, well, that comes with getting your stuff together, having that discipline and everything kind of in between. And I think that when you kind of get that stuff, your energy just kind of puts it out there and gets that right person.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is that people need to learn is, don't try to date because you're lonely. Handle your stuff and realize what you need to take care of, and then that right person's going to come along. And I think that's what God's timing is.
Exactly. Well, and just to add really quick, um, I know it's, like, said on social media, but coming from a girl's perspective, it really is true. The more feminine a girl becomes in a relationship, the more comfortable and safe she is, you know? And that might not be true for everyone because everyone's different, but I've at least noticed it that I get girly when I'm in a safe relationship. I like to look nice for dates. I like to go out and do things. I'm a sucker for flowers. A man buys me flowers, I'm head over heels. I those feminine things, when a guy is truly confident in himself and puts that effort forward, a girl's going to feel so safe. And I feel like it truly has a ripple effect because when the man is doing that and you feel confident and safe and you feel feminine, you're able to put that feminine side. I don't care who disagrees, but every woman out there has motherly instincts. And when we're able to have that almost triggered and care for our partner like that, there's no safer relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to really quick just kind of specify. I'm not saying toxic masculinity is
No.
okay. Like, no, we're not saying that, but we're saying there's a fine line of the man being masculine to allow the woman to be feminine, and it's leading to that safety, and that's definitely one thing that I have learned,
Yeah.
yeah, of coming with that. Okay, we're gonna move on, and we're about to get really deep. So, Holland, do you think that you've ever been in love?
Oh gosh, I'll be honest, I was dreading this question so much. I think looking back on it and being fully transparent, I go to therapy. I've seen a therapist for about 3 years. I love my therapist. She's the best. Um, And through that, the time I thought I was in love, it was conditional love. And it wasn't really what I guess, knew love to be. Like, it's not what a real definition of love is. And, um, I was at BYU, Idaho, and I was seeing this guy, and we didn't even really date, which is the crazy part. It was just kind of a situationship for 9 months, which all my friends flame me for that. It was a stupid decision on my part, but it it really made me who I am. Even though it was so toxic, and at the time it's what I thought love was. Gosh, then I guess no, I don't think I've ever really been in love with someone. There's been conditional love, but not real love.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know fully, but my thing that I've heard with situationships is that's where it's like hits the hardest because it's
Oh.
like there's love bombing kind of in there, and
Oh,
there's
there
like
definitely is.
there's a lot of aspects to that where it's like okay, but and it's like okay, well I'm a choice. Like when they choose you, it's great, but when they don't, it's great. Sarcasm right there, but I totally understand that.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it was really hard too because I think you've realized this about me through our friendship is when I care about someone and I'm all in, I am all in. Like, I will do anything to show my love. I will cook for you, I will bake for you, I will help you with whatever you need. And that was going on. I was putting everything forward. Gosh, it was my birthday and he got sick, and I baked him, like, made him food and took it over there and bought him a 12-pack of Mountain Dew. And gosh, it was barely even reciprocated. And I was like, oh, he'll come around. He'll see I'm good, you know? But in reality, that just wasn't the case.
just to kind of throw this out there, all the gentlemen listening, Holland is single, so if you liked what you just heard, sorry, I just had to lighten the mood a little bit,
Yeah, fair.
but no, I get it. I totally get it. So I don't think I have anything else to really add to what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm sorry, you know the stories go crazy sometimes. So
no, I mean
we've all had experiences.
I fully understand. I mean I said it earlier. I literally wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
I'm down bad. Like
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those things, and I think that that's what love is such a complicated thing because it's you're most vulnerable, especially when you're truly in love. And love is one of those things where you literally have to risk everything to get it.
Yeah.
Like, when you sign up to date, when you sign up to be in a relationship, when you actually sign up to actually love someone,
Mhm.
you're going, "Here's all of me. Please don't break me." And sometimes you get broken, and sometimes
It's a hard thing to do.
sometimes you break other people unintentionally,
Yeah, I got stories about that too. Gosh,
and
it's a hard thing to do.
yeah, and I just think it's we all sign up for it, and it's great, and I think that's what when we talk about relationships, it's just it's you need to make sure you're ready for it,
Yeah.
and I think it comes with you need to learn to love yourself before you can love anybody else, and learn that the only love that you truly need
Mhm.
is Heavenly Father's love, and
Yeah.
once you have that, any other love is a bonus.
I was literally just gonna say that. I think in our world today, we get so caught up in, you know, my spouse or companion or whoever, us, and then whatever else. But really it needs to be, and this might be controversial, but it really needs to be God and our relationship with him, us, and then our spouse or significant other. Because us and our connection with Christ is so important, and when we build our foundation upon that and we have a good relationship, everything else falls into place. And we're able to provide in those other areas and have a strong relationship with our person.
Yeah, I want to touch on that, but I kind of want us to move forward into our next topic because what you just said is kind of, I think, a key to what we're talking about.
Okay.
So, what do you think a Christ-like relationship or a Christ-centered relationship looks like?
Whew.
Because I think it's important what you just said is we always go, it's, our spouse and then everything else,
Yeah.
including God. But it is truly what you meant. It's you, God, and your spouse. They talk about, I don't know, I can't remember the name. We talked about it actually on Sunday, and it was like the love triangle of a marriage. And it's literally, it's you, your spouse, and God. And it's like, if you neglect one of those and you start pulling farther and farther apart, eventually the triangle is going to break.
Yeah.
The goal is that the triangle comes as close to touching as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to kind of remember. And I think it's also one of those things like, especially in dating or like relationships or as like things progress, I think it comes down to the fact of if you start idolizing whoever you're dating, God's going to go, dude,
Oh,
what are you doing? And
yeah.
you may not like the effects. It may be a little bit of a slap on the wrist, or it may be like, I think we need to take this away so you can grow closer to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you mind saying the question one more time?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, what do you think a Christ-like or Christ-centered relationship looks like?
Okay. I completely agreed with what you said. And I feel like there's so many different avenues you could go down in this topic. So like literally what like day to day should look like or like eternally, you know. But I think if you don't have a companion that you knowingly can go to the temple with, feel confident in doing daily scripture study or saying your prayers with, or going to church with, then I don't know, you really need to think about it. Gosh, I had a quote in my head and I can't remember it now and I'm really frustrated at myself. I think we had talked about this. Or maybe I saw it, I can't remember, but being equally yoked.
Yeah, I think
Did we talk about that?
we were talking about
I
being
feel like
equally yoked.
yeah, I think we had a conversation about that a couple
Or
days
I,
ago.
I, I might have sent you an Instagram about it. It was something,
Yeah,
or there's been so many lessons on marriage lately. Like,
yeah.
it's just like, is God telling me something?
I know, that's all my social media has been lately.
Well, even at like church or conference, like
Yeah.
I felt like a big part of it was talking about like families and that. But yeah, I was kind of talking about being equally yoked. I think it's definitely important. And I think like when you're talking about that, I agree, you got to have a partner who's willing to do the things. But also, like, if you're in a relationship and it just stops, like, you need to evaluate and go, okay, well, what would Christ do right here? Because I think that's super important, when you're in a relationship. If like, I don't believe that it's ever 50-50. If you think it's
No.
50-50, you're wrong. And I hate to tell you this and I will die on this hill, but it's a quote that I saw on Instagram. We're going to be quoting Instagram all
Yeah.
day, but it should always be 60-40 and you should be the partner striving to be 60.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not that I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I just have a different perspective on it.
Well, I think it fluctuates,
It
but
does
it does
fluctuate.
fluctuate. But if you're trying to always be that partner that's giving 60% on those days where you need to give 90% or even 99%,
Yeah.
you're going to be able to give that.
Yeah.
But if you're the partner that's always like, oh, I'm just going to give 50%, like,
Mhm.
that's where I think choices come in.
Yeah.
You have to choose to be like, okay, I'm going to give 60%. And even if you don't, I think you need to communicate that with your partner.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, one stat that I always love, and it could be skewed a little bit, but they talk about why, and this is why I think prayer is so important in any relationship, marriage, or even dating. But it's 1% of couples who pray together every night get divorced.
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers to know exactly with it, so it might be, a little skewed, but
Yeah.
I would take those odds over anything. When is it ever 1% of something when we're talking about people splitting up?
Yeah. Gosh. I love this. I just love talking about this. Kind of going back to what you were saying and I guess rethinking it, I think I probably saw the same thing, but something that I've learned in I think therapy. And I could be totally wrong in this. Um gosh, I don't even want to say the name because I think I'm totally wrong. But there was something I had seen or I had talked about in therapy where you need to be giving both 100%. And there are gonna be those days where you can't and say, "Hey," this is where communication comes super really big into play, and I think that's one of the biggest factors of a relationship, no matter who you are or where you stand, is communication. And there are gonna be those days where you can give 20%, where you say to your partner, "Hey, I'm here today. I can give you 20%. This is what I can give you. I need you to help me make up the rest. Where are you at today so that I can be aware?" And I love that because not only can you implement that in your, you know, marital relationships, but any relationship, you know? There have been times where I've been with friends and, um, I think it's really helpful because especially for people with mental health issues, and as somebody who struggles with mental health issues, it's great, but even in friendships, there have been days where we have plans to go do stuff, and they'll pick me up, and I'll look at them, and I'll say, "Hey, I am at, like, a 40 right now. I'm kinda dying at the moment. I'm not all there. I apologize if I'm short or if I'm not fully excited for what we're about to go do. I just need you to be aware and understand whatever goes on. You've done nothing wrong. I'm here. Here's how you can help me. What do you need?"
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I think that is the biggest thing is communication
Yeah.
and communicating how you're feeling. If we're not talking about, a doctrine standpoint or any standpoint where we're bringing, the spirit into it, I think the spirit does help, and I think, all that. But I think the biggest thing is communication and not letting your partner try and read your mind.
Yeah.
And I think as relationships get, and this may just be because I've been in none that have made it to the finish line, but as relationships get, more and more I guess longer or less fresh is I think communication is sometimes is the thing that goes because it's like I've been with this partner for 2 years, like they should know how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's how it goes. I think that every day you should know your partner to a certain perspective, like if they're being quieter than usual or something. But I think that the most dangerous thing in a relationship is trying to have someone read your mind.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, there was a there was a time, that same guy I was dating about a year ago, like I said, he wasn't really active in church, but he started coming to church with me because it was important to me and he wanted to help in that. And there was a time where I just got called to teach Sunday school and I really needed that support there. And I'll admit, I'm not perfect. I have my own faults. And he wasn't gonna be on time. And he was like, I don't want know if I wanna go. Like, I'm really exhausted. Like work's been really long, he was in the military and so like he had a lot of long, long hours, and um I was like, "Well, I thought you were coming, like, I really need you here, I really need the support, I'm really nervous," and he was like, "Well, you didn't tell me, like, I didn't know, I don't," and I felt so horrible in that moment because, like I said, not everyone's perfect, not even me, not even you, like, it was a big reality check of, "Oh, I gotta be more honest about what I need," because that was completely unfair to him. That I just read my mind, expect you to be there, you know? That's not how a relationship should work.
I think the only relationship, and I even think doesn't fully work that way, is that's the only relationship with God is the one that can read our mind. Like, but it's
Seriously.
funny. It's like you should almost treat it the same way. Like when you want something or when you are praying for something, it's like you're being vocal about it. So
Yep.
like take that aspect and go, okay, well, maybe if I do this with my partner, like that's one attribute. Like you know, you should feel, and I think this comes back to the safe place. You should be able to tell your partner anything and
Mhm.
know that it's not going to leave the confines of where where you're discussing it, um, unless they want it to.
Yeah,
And I think that's also important when you're talking about tough things is make sure that they know, like, if it's just between you two, like,
they need to be aware of that.
yeah, because, sometimes there's conversations that happen. You're like, okay, well, I kind of need advice. Like,
Yep.
how do I handle this? And I think it's important, like, biggest thing is just don't expect your partner to be a mind reader.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just admit as a guy I'm dumb, but like spell
And
it out for me.
and honestly, as girls tend to, you should know what you should just know what I'm thinking. Why didn't you do the dishes? I told you to do the dishes in my head. You should have
Yeah,
done the dishes.
yeah. I actually love that, and I actually kind of wanted to bring that up. Is people talk about love languages, and they always go like, do you know your love language? One interesting thing that I saw was like, do you actually know your love language? Because if you think about it, the things that you want in a partner or the things that like you expect from them, that's really your love language. So like if you're someone who, gets antsy or I think it was like things that make you anxious. So like if you get antsy if like you don't get a text back or you don't get a call back, like your love language is quality time or words of affirmation.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you really think about it, I think a lot of us are like, oh yeah, mine's physical touch or mine's so and so. But it's like, do you really know what your love language is? Or are you just
Yeah.
kind of guessing? So I think that's important too, is like understanding what your love language is and kind of just communicating that. And like, if you don't know what it is, really think back.
Mhm.
Last relationships. And I think they do change you're at in your life.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
no, go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
I think regardless of what your love language is, no matter, what your person needs or what you need or how you show your love, I think everyone just needs to hear that you love each other every once in
Yeah.
a while and that the other person's appreciated. Just communication. I love that we keep talking about it. Communication is the biggest thing. I don't know how many times I could say it.
I think too, like, I know it's scary to say I love you. And like I know everybody makes it such a big word, but it's just like it's like the second commandment, love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
Like literally like I think it should be more important to just be like, I love you. Like in general with more people, because it's like you think about it, when's the next time you may never see someone again. I
Yeah.
know that sounds morbid and
No,
terrible.
it's so true.
But it's like, if you care about a person, just like letting them know that there's so many aspects in life where it could be, but it's just like, just saying I love you doesn't need to be this big thing anymore, in my
No,
opinion.
make I love you casual but not casual again. Like
Yeah.
let it genuinely have meaning and genuinely mean it when you tell a person, but it's okay to let those bigger feelings in.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be such a taboo.
It's not scary. So, okay, we'll kind of move forward,
Okay.
and kind of talk about. So we've kind of talked about certain things in a relationship, but I think this is kind of a big one, especially, why I say age, but I think any kind of relationship is boundaries.
Ooh.
So for you, what do you think the best way is to navigate boundaries, whether it be spiritual, emotional, physical? Like what? I guess what's your go-to?
Well, as we've been talking about, again, communication. If you have a hard boundary about something, talk about it. Don't if it's really that important to you and it's a boundary you genuinely care about it, you're gonna care to talk about it with your partner and be open about it. Um, but I feel like there's so many different things or ways to handle boundaries, but I think through any boundary you set with a partner, really the best advice I could give is to pray about it and to really have Christ in mind when you go through that and think about your partner and their needs because for me, kind of an example, when I look for a spouse, and we've kind of talked about this before, but in my patriarchal blessing, and I won't say word for word because for those that don't know, patriarchal blessings are super sacred to a person, and you don't really talk about it, and it's not that it's this big scary thing. It's just it's very sacred and personal. But one of the things that I constantly remember that has truly been important to me since I got my blessing, um, is that my spouse will never put my virtue in jeopardy. And that's the biggest thing I look for when I date someone. And I've shared things with you as soon as that comes into play where I can feel my virtue is at jeopardy, gone. Bye. Don't want anything to do with it. I'm over it. I've seen how that's affected my life and how it brings me down and how farther away it puts me with my relationship with Christ, and I don't want that. And my spouse would never do that to me, you know? So I think turning to those things like patriarchal blessing, or even if you don't have one or you don't want one or whatever, um, really being intentful and prayerful about what you want your future to look like, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that, and I think it's great examples. I think it's just as a reminder to people, when with boundaries, I think it is important what you're saying, but I think it's almost like you make them your non-negotiables. There's certain boundaries that should be non-negotiables, and that's where praying and there's certain, and having intent behind them. And I think it's important to remember is just because you love a person doesn't mean you forget about your boundaries.
100%.
Because I think it is important and, sometimes boundaries do get crossed and it's like you do have to give grace.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think it's one thing where it's like you need to realize like, okay, these are my boundaries. And no matter if you love a person or you don't, like you kind of have to be selfish and go, do I love myself more?
Yeah.
Because when you hold your boundaries, there's two things that are going to happen. They're either going to love you more and respect you and want to be with you more, or they're going to walk away from your life and not come back.
Mhm.
And if you ask me, those are both blessings.
Yeah, there and gosh, I can already see it in my head, but there's, this conversation that I've had with my dad, and I know he's gonna see this and that he's gonna say, "I told you so." But there's this conversation that we've had a few times, and I don't remember the analogy fully, so forgive me, Dad, if I forgot anything, but, there was this mountain, and this guy was, taking a horse-drawn carriage around it, and he kept getting frustrated because his back wheels or his side wheels kept slipping off the side of the mountain, and a wheel would pop off, and it would take all this extra time and all this extra stuff, and it was just ruining his day. It was setting him behind, and, he was talking to other people about it. It's just like, "Oh, just so frustrated, like, these tires keep slipping off, like, I don't know what's going on," and, someone brought it to his attention that because he was in such a big hurry, "I have to get there." This person brought to his attention, "Why, like, this happens every time. You know the edge is there. Why do you push it every time and get so close to the edge, and to the point where it lets you falls off?" And it is so applicable in life, in every aspect of your life, spiritual, um gosh, spiritual, physical, intellectual, whatever aspect you wanna put it in, um, don't get so close to the edge, don't even tempt that edge. Who cares if it takes a couple extra seconds to get there, it's not worth the possible years of pain or anxiety or whatever, or heartbreak it may cause. It's not worth the heartache to get that close to the edge, or push it to even get close to fall off, and there should be that barrier, there should be that boundary, and you should be willing to put that there, and not even get close to that line. I feel like at our age, in our 20s or even your early 30s or even your teens, you're joining the YSA ward, you're in high school, whatever it may be, in any aspect of your life, you know yourself. You may not know yourself fully, but you know where your hard boundaries should be, and you know when you're getting close to that line. And it's it's a hard thing to follow, but you really gotta watch for it.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I was just kind of like, I was just thinking like us, anybody in their 20s or teens, it's just like, well, how close can I get to the line without crossing it? And when you were kind of talking, I love that analogy. And it kind of reminded me, Elder Holland. There's a quote from Elder Holland, and I'm going to butcher it. It's in one of his talks, but he's just like, temptation knocks on your door. You shouldn't be inviting it in for tea and crumpets. You shouldn't even be drinking tea. And then, and it's so true. It's just like you put yourself in those positions, and you know,
Yeah.
Everybody's had moments where they've crossed boundaries.
Yeah.
If you haven't, you're lying. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna call you out for it. This is a real and honest podcast.
It is. No, it's true. Like I've said, nobody's perfect. Everyone's gonna screw up. You could be the perfect person in somebody's eyes, but you have your own demons.
Exactly. And I mean, when we talk about this, it could be anything. I'm not just talking
Oh, yeah.
about, physical, we're talking spiritually, we're talking
No, yeah.
mentally, like we're talking even values wise.
Oh,
Like
yeah, 100%.
I just, like we talked about earlier, marriage is forever. If a boundary's crossed, I think it's also one of those things where if you let your boundaries be crossed, because I think this is important too, because I think it's always we're talking about the person who crosses your boundaries
Mhm.
because I think it's important to realize like it's your boundaries when someone crosses them, like, or you let them cross them, is you start giving a piece of yourself away.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
your pieces are going, and
Mhm.
then they just keep going. And in a relationship, I think once that happens, it's just kind of a ticking time bomb, if I'm being honest,
No, so true.
because it gets to a point where you've either given yourself all away and it's just kind of numb
Mhm.
and you don't feel it anymore, or they don't respect you.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing with boundaries, and like I said, when you stick to those hard boundaries, they're either going to respect and love you more,
Yeah.
or they're going to leave your life. And either way, it's a blessing.
Facts. Oh my gosh, I could not agree more. It just, one last little comment, the sooner you start letting yourself make excuses of, "Well, this is okay. Oh, that's not that big of a deal. It wasn't that far." Whether in any circumstance. Um, "Well, he didn't treat me that horribly," or "This didn't happen, so it's fine," or "Well, it could have gone this far," or "I could have been treated this badly, it's fine." The sooner you start having those little instances and you start chipping away at "It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It could have gone worse. It could have gone farther." That's when you start to lose yourself. And I'm speaking from personal experience. It happens. It's very real. And the biggest thing to remember is those thoughts aren't from your heavenly Father, they're from Satan.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing for some people to grasp, I feel like, but it's true. Those thoughts are not from your Savior because no way would he ever let you think that or let that happen, and yes, we have agency and we have the beauty of repentance, but Christ loves you, and he wants you to have everything right in your life, and he knows that's not always the case, and we know that's not always the case, but don't ever purposefully put yourself in those situations to chip away at your heart and your relationship with Christ.
Yeah. No, I agree. We're going to touch on this really quick just because I think we've kind of talked about it the whole time. But
Yeah.
what is just to kind of touch on Jesus Christ, what do you think is a Christ like attribute that can help you with communication or being vulnerable?
Oh, man. Um, I think I would have to say patience and humbling yourself. Uh, being humble enough to be patient. Uh, I feel like you've seen me in a few situations where my patience is so thin. So so far gone and so thin, and, it gets really hard. It gets extremely hard when those little things keep ticking of, "Well, they didn't do this, or they didn't listen to me, or they didn't show up for this, or they didn't call me back, or they didn't text me, or they should have done this to help me," or whatever. But when we switch our brain to have that eternal perspective and be patient with one another, especially in our relationships, especially in marriage, we're able to not only feel Christ's love, but have so much more love for our partner. And I think that's a really hard thing to do sometimes because we can harden our hearts so much. And it's really can be hard to get out of that. But I think it's really important that you do get out of it.
Yeah, no, I think I love what you just said about being humble. I think humility in a relationship is the only way a relationship is successful.
Yeah.
I think that I won't say all relationships, but I would say a big part of them end because one person has an ego and
Mhm.
they let their ego get in the way.
Yeah.
So I would definitely agree with that. I think just loving people, like we said,
Yeah.
I think when you're able to just love people like Christ loved people, and just like you're able to be vulnerable, like everybody knows me, and everybody knows like I'm an open book,
Uh,
and that's probably not a great thing all the time, but
no, I'm the same way. That's why we get along so well.
like ask me a question, it'll be the first time we meeting, and I'll tell you my deepest darkest fear. Like, so I think that's, one of the big things. Um, okay, here's the next hard-hitting question for you.
Yikes.
So, in your opinion, how do you think you can discern the Lord's will versus personal feelings towards a relationship?
Oh, that one, it's really hard. And I know every person varies. It might be easier for some than others, but for me, especially in my personal revelation, I can be very stubborn. I can be extremely stubborn. And I guess one of the ways that I receive personal revelation is through recurring thoughts. And they'll get stronger and stronger and stronger. And sometimes when we're in that first little honeymoon phase in a relationship, it's really easy to disregard all those thoughts. And I know, speaking from personal experience, I've had that. One of the last relationships I was in, I truly was like so in it. You saw, Jesse knows, guys. I was deep in it, and my judgment was very cloudy and fogged, and I think we got maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks into dating, and it just kept coming of, "This is not going to end well, this isn't gonna be good, you need to get out of this, he's not right, like, this is not right," and I, for the longest time, blew it off completely, and it just kept setting me back in every aspect, emotionally, physically, it was causing me physical panic attacks, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Um, but when, again, humbling ourselves, when you humble yourself to recognize those thoughts and to realize, okay, no, I know this is what's being said. I know this is the prompting I'm getting. I know I need to listen to it. I think that's when we need to turn to Christ more than ever, because prayer can play a big aspect into that. I don't even remember how many times I prayed to have the courage to end it. And that's a really hard thing to do, but I had to, because ultimately it 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 wasn't going to be good. And as we've seen, thank heavens I'm not in that relationship anymore. So,
Yeah. I think this is one thing that I'm still learning, if I'm being completely transparent.
mhm,
And I think it's because I love with such a big heart.
mhm,
But if I was going to give advice to my future self,
mhm.
is one, be patient, because God makes hard times happen before the greatest things happen. And that's when you know it's from God. And I'm not saying your relationship should be hard and then it's just going to be like, oh, they're the ones. But when you rush and you do it with your mind of having pleasure fast, then the hard things happen after.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're trying to discern your feelings versus the Lord's will, is one, I think it's going to feel like home. And when I say home, your nervous system's going to be calm. You're going to be able to be yourself, and you're not going to be walking on eggshells. And two, I think that it's hard. And I think we were going to touch on this, so this might come up later, but you have to discern doubt from fear,
Mhm.
because I think that happens a lot. But I think that if you have doubt, don't keep praying, Lord, if this is my person, keep them in my life. If you think there's doubt, go, Lord, if this is not my person, take them out of my life.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, I think you're more likely to see them get taken out of your life than if you're just like, oh, we'll keep them in. Because I think your feelings will actually show when you're just like,
Yeah.
if they're supposed to be with me, great. But if not, you're literally handing it over to the Lord. And I truly mean this, is when you pray, take them out of my life, like let them, like Let
Yeah.
him. Let the action speak for it.
Uh-huh. Well, I think that's the hardest thing too, is because heck, I know I've had to say that prayer of, "Okay, Heavenly Father, if it's your will and this person is not meant to be in my life, take them out," you know? And then when the Lord takes them out of your life, you have to let it happen. You literally prayed for it. Like, you have to learn to be okay with that because that's what you asked for.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's one thing that I'm learning. And I think that it's a hard thing because, especially when you love big, it's just like, well, it's one of those what we talked about earlier is we want to be the writers of our own story, but really God's writing our story and he knows. So, um, we'll kind of jump forward. Um, you know, just I think it's one of those big things. Also with relationships and just kind of touching base with egos, I think that it's also for us, it's important to understand that all relationships are different.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. If you want to look it up later, I encourage each one to look it up. But I would look up what a firework relationship is, what a candlestick relationship is, and what a reflective relationship is. Jay Shetty, he is a great podcaster, talks about relationships, and he talks about, a firework relationship. It's great from the beginning, and then it kind of fizzles out. A candlestick relationship, it's that slow burn that never, like fizzles out, but it's slow. But he says the best relationships life is a reflective. And I think it's a relationship that we want to have, we should have with God too. But it's your partner's going to hold up a mirror and go, this is where you're hurt. This is where you need to heal. This is what you need to do better. And we're us going, oh no, what? No, you're showing me all my bad traits. Like, what's going on? And I think it's important to remember, as long as they're doing it out of love, that's a person I think you want to be with. Because I think it's also when you go through those tough times, that's the person you want to be with.
Yeah.
Like, who was with you at the bottom? Because guess what? It's not always rainbows and butterflies. Like,
No.
when you're choosing a partner, this sounds morbid, but you're choosing the person that's gonna be with you when your parents die. When maybe you lose your job and the bills are coming in,
Mhm.
and any other hardships that you're gonna face.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice is when you're saying these prayers and you're kind of thinking about this, I think the answers are gonna be there. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's also just because a relationship's a little bit uncomfortable,
Mhm.
if you're doing it with love, you should be helping your partner.
100%.
So this is where things get fun.
Oh,
I know
joy.
I know some of you are probably bored. We're just kind of rambling
Yeah.
on breakups.
They're not fun.
So we talked about how you can discern your feelings from the Lord's will. So how can you tell if ending the relationship is the right move or if you're doing it out of fear?
Gosh, kind of what I talked about earlier, just truly being prayerful about it, and I feel like sometimes it's easier said than done, and I know I'm guilty of this of I know I should pray, so it's what I'm gonna do, but if I receive an answer, great, but if not, oh well, I'll just do my own thing. And it's really hard to get out of that mindset a lot of times, but I think you need to make a conscious effort to get out of that mindset, um, because I feel it can put you in a really hard place. Um, if you know you need to end it with someone, be prayerful about it and really think about it, and truly evaluate how you feel with this person, the type of person you become when you're around them. How do they treat you? How do they treat your family? How do they treat your friends? How do they respect themselves enough to hold those boundaries we were talking about? Do they respect you and your boundaries, Or are they truly someone that you can have a Christ-centered relationship with? Um, and I think what it boils down to when we are intentfully prayerful about it, um, you'll know. You'll know without a doubt whether it's right or wrong and or how to even handle a breakup like that. And sometimes, and I've seen this happen before, sometimes people break up for a period of time because they need that separate time to grow and they come back together. And that's not always it. Don't be delusional and putting yourself in because I've done that. Let's be so real, I've done that. Don't be delusional enough to put yourself in that headspace. But sometimes that is the case, and don't be afraid of that, because sometimes the Lord will separate you and a person for a period of time because that's what you need or that's what the other person needs. It's really important to be able to grow with a person, um, but sometimes you just can't, and you can't put all that pressure on each other or rely on each other like that. You need to truly get good on your own before you put that onto another person.
No, I love that. I think you really hit it nail on the head, and I think it's true, I don't think you're ever gonna know if ending a I okay, take that back. I take that back. I think you're gonna know if ending a relationship if it's, like, really bad,
Yeah.
but I don't think you're gonna know if it was a right decision or if it was fair until you're months into it. Truly.
Well, and new relationships are scary no matter what. Marriage, it's a scary thing to go into. You're evolving and you're changing and you're stepping
Exactly.
into this new role and this new life. It's gonna be scary no matter what. But if it's scary, I guess this is gonna sound weird, but if it's scary for the right reasons, then you're gonna be just fine. That's normal. It's a normal feeling to have, regardless of what faith you are or who you are or how you were raised. You're stepping into a new phase of life, and that's always gonna be scary.
No, exactly. No, I think it's right. I don't think you like I think it just goes back to what we talked about with when you're discerning your feelings from other people from God's will is there's going to be answers, and I think you're right. Sometimes relationships do have to end for you both to grow, and one of those things when that relationship ends, whatever the reason is if it's from fear or whatever, like yes, you may come back together, but even if you don't, like I think it's better you ended it because of fear and you stood your ground
Mhm.
than just kind of, you know, weren't sure half in, half out.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the way that you're fair on your part, but the other person's part
Mhm.
in general. So now we're going to get personal.
Okay.
Would you be willing to share maybe how a breakup shaped you or maybe really taught you something about your faith as an identity?
Ooh, gosh. Yeah. Um, yeah. So going back to being in school, that person I was seeing at the time, like I said, it was very toxic. Um, and truthfully, it was probably one of the hardest things I had had to do. And coming home was really hard because I'll be honest, that's one of the main reasons I came home from school. I was not in the right mental state. It messed with my head so bad. Like I was having such horrible panic attacks to the point that I was puking. It was not fun, and it really goes to show how powerful someone can have over you when you like you were talking about earlier, when you idolize that person or you let them take control of you in a certain way, it can be so powerful. Um, and at the time, I wasn't really active in church. I went to a church school, but I'll be honest, I was the roommate that didn't go to church on Sundays. All my roommates would get up, go to church, and I would stay in bed. And then or I would get ready and I would go get breakfast with my friends, or we'd go run down to Idaho Falls and go to Target or whatever. And I just I really didn't have a relationship with Christ. And it was really hard, and it honestly was one of the darkest times in my life. Um, and in coming home, it was really rough at first. It was really hard. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I felt immense amount of guilt, um, and I truly felt like a failure. I felt like such a failure. I felt horrible about myself. There was a lot of time spent at therapy. There was a lot of time crying, and I think as a lot of my close friends know, the beach is my happy place. It's where I go and sit and just think, and I spent a lot of time at the beach. And I still go. One of my favorite things to do is to just take my scriptures and go sit at the beach on the lifeguard tower. That's one of my favorite things. And when I came home, I spent a lot of time doing that. For the first while, I really still resented church. I didn't wanna go. I hated it. My parents, living at home, my parents not that they forced me, my parents have always been loving in that aspect, but they always wanted me to put forth the effort to have a relationship with Christ, and it just wasn't something I wanted for a while, and looking back on that, that feels really horrible to say, but it was true, and over time, as I word hopped to YSA words and I found my people, um, which truly is why I have such a love for the YSA word we met in, is it brought me back to my Savior tenfold. And there's definitely those peaks and valleys, and there's those hard times, and nobody's perfect. That's why repentance is such a great thing. But I wouldn't be who I am today without that. And even though it quite literally broke me, like so bad, I don't think I would change it any other way at all. It really molded me into who I am today and how I look at things and how I want to be treated and why a Christ-centered relationship is so important to me.
I I love that, and honestly, thank you for sharing that. I couldn't agree with you more tenfold on that whole thing where it's kind of funny, like, end of relationship could be the end of the world to us.
Yeah,
Like, stop eating, stop drinking, wanting to vomit, basically feel broken.
yeah.
And that's where one of my buddies has a joke with me, and
Mhm.
he goes, "Dude, like, when you get broken up with or whatever, like, you basically have a choice to be Anakin that turns into Darth Vader or Anakin that was supposed to be good
Yeah.
and, like, do all these great things." And it's like, when you're on that breakup journey and all this, and it's like, it's just it's true, it's true. It's like, okay, well, I can be mad at God right now for what just happened, or I can pull up my bootstraps,
Mhm.
and as bad as it sounds, and whatever, and you can choose the savior and go, okay, I hear you. Like, let's figure out what I did,
Yeah.
and let's figure out how we're going to move forward together, because it's truly like, especially when you're idolizing someone, is it takes so much out of you and your identity, and it's just
Oh my gosh.
one of those things. So
Yeah.
I love what you said. It's bringing you closer to Christ.
Mm.
So, and I think that's kind of the gist. So, okay. So you talked about guilt.
Yeah.
So how do you separate spiritual guilt from emotional pain, and how do you move forward?
I think the thing I think about the most, especially in a relationship setting, is being a member of the church is so great. And dating, like we've talked about earlier, dating in the church can be really hard, especially where we live. And in those circumstances where I have dated people who aren't members of our church, it's not that they're bad people. Some of them are great. You don't have to be a member of our church to be a good person. Um, but there are those times where you feel like you're not doing enough, that you could be better at this, or you could bring them closer to Christ, or you feel guilty that you're with someone that doesn't want a relationship with Christ, or something like that. And it gets really hard, um, and difficult to not feel guilty. One of the last relationships I was in, there was that interest to wanna go to church, wanna come and support me, stuff like that, but ultimately wasn't living the standards, wasn't doing anything like that, and it kind of felt like a slap in the face because I had put forth all this effort, and like I had talked about earlier, when I love hard, and I put all my effort in, and I felt like I could do so much more, and I constantly when we broke up, I constantly thought about, "Oh, if I had done this differently, or if I had you know, cut back on this, or if I hadn't put this much pressure, or if I had done this, or maybe if I had, introduced them to the missionaries sooner or whatever, it would be different. And that's just not the case. Like, truly, it's not. God has a plan, and I can't change their heart and how they want to live their lives, whether they wanna have a Christ-centered relationship or not, or even if it's anything else, if there's something going on with them, whether it's emotionally or physically or mentally, I can't change that, and you can't take that on personally, and live with that guilt because it it's not a you thing, it's a them thing, and what's gonna happen is gonna happen, and what God has in plan for you and them is gonna happen no matter what. You can't control it, and it's how it is.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I mean, first off, breakups aren't easy,
No.
and Uh, when it comes to the spiritual or guilt in general, I think it's just what you said. The what ifs go off and it's like firecrackers. It's like, what
Oh,
if this? What if this? What if this? And don't get me wrong, like it's important to evaluate the relationship,
mm,
but it's also going back in your mind and going, it takes two to tango.
100.
It takes two to tango. We're two grown adults. We both made mistakes. And yes, what you should do is look at what you could have did better, grow from it, hold that mirror up a little bit and identify and try to heal, but don't kill yourself over it.
No.
Because guess what? This is what I went to therapy and what my therapist said is, yeah, dude, you're gonna have those thoughts. You're gonna keep having that guilt, but it's important for you to know what you did, but know what they did, and then it goes. Tell yourself it happened and it's over,
Yeah.
and learn from it.
Mm,
I think that's the biggest thing is learning from it.
yeah.
Just 2 more questions just to kind of figure it out, and you can wrap your testimony into it or you can do it after, but
Yeah.
what would you tell someone who's going through that grief stage right now of a breakup and who's in that trust God stage?
Um, I think I would tell them what I had to tell myself through it all, is life's gonna keep happening no matter what. Um Through these times when I was going through these breakups or I was going through emotional ups and downs in a relationship, I would have these big things coming up of like, oh, I have a final, or oh, I get to go home for a break, or oh, I get to go do this or that. Those are going to happen no matter what. These days are going to happen no matter what. It's how you take a step forward and it's how you progress each day little by little and get through it. And not every day is going to be perfect, but you just have to take it a day at a time, truthfully, you really, really do, and you can use those days as milestones, you know? "Okay, like, we broke up or this is going on and this is coming up, how am I gonna be better by this date?" How can I progress and be better? How can I, you know, feel better? And when you take the time to slow down and really see those days coming, it's not gonna get or it's not gonna fully go away, but it's gonna get easier. How you feel is never gonna fully go away. It's just gonna get easier day by day, and you're gonna learn how to handle it and feel better about things day by day because life just keeps moving. It really, really does. And that was the biggest thing I really had to learn because I was in such a state where the breakup was the end of the world. This person was my everything at the time, and my life is over. And that's just not the case. You are your own person. You are who you are. You have so much worth no matter what has happened, and you are so immensely loved, not just by your friends or your family, but by your savior. And that was one of the hardest things I had to grasp um, because there was a lot of self-doubt and self-worth issues throughout those, where I really felt worthless. I felt like I just wasn't worthy of love, and there still is times where you will feel like that, um, but when you take it a day at a time and you pray daily, if you can, do your best, it's not easy, um, you're gonna see that, and you're gonna see that change, and it shifts your mindset like no other. Um, when you really slow down and just take it a day at a time, your mindset is gonna shift, and it's gonna be insane, and you're gonna radiate, and you're gonna glow, and people are gonna see it. I think that was one of the coolest things, and I'm legitimately not trying to brag, but it was the coolest thing ever after all of that happening in Idaho to change and evolve and become better, and to have people genuinely go, "You've changed. What's going on?" I'm like, "Nothing's changed. What are you talking about? I maybe dyed my hair, but nothing's changed. I don't know what you're talking about." And even member people not of our church or our faith coming up to, "You have a light about you." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, stop. Like, what are you talking about?" It's so true, and it's not easy to always see it, and those times are so important that you need to step back and really reflect of, "Oh my gosh, I am doing better than I thought. Life might not be perfect right now, but here's where I was, say, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 months ago, a week ago. Here's where I'm at now. Oh my gosh, I'm doing so much better than I thought."
I love that. And I definitely agree with you. I think, you kind of touched on it all. And where I stand at it is don't be afraid to feel it.
Mhm.
I think that, we all, everybody says, jump back into dating, jump back into you, love yourself. Don't be afraid to feel the feelings because when you're grieving a relationship, you're grieving your past, present, and future self. And when you truly love someone, that's the hardest part. So I think that's number one. But I also think number two is don't sit in it.
Yeah.
You can feel it, but don't let it stop you from doing the things.
Mhm.
And it's a lot easier said than done, but it's go to work. I know it's hard. I know it's one of those struggles. Go to the gym, hang out with friends
Mhm.
because it may be one of those things that's hard at that time, but looking back in 3 months, you're going to be grateful that it happened. And I think the other part is talk to friends, talk to therapists if you need it. And if you're truly the biggest thing is they walked out of your life, it's a lesson for you. Don't be upset, don't be angry, like, you love that person. So I think another thing that helps is give it to God, and when I say give it to God, be grateful for that relationship, because when you're grateful for something that happened in your life, it helps you go, "Well, yeah, this sucks," but it goes, "I'm grateful for that happened, I'm grateful for the lessons that it taught me."
Mhm.
And I think when you truly give it to God, that's when you start to heal, and like you said, that light that comes, the post-glow breakup that people say, become the person that you wanna date.
Yeah.
That's truly what it comes down to is become the person that if you were to meet in 6 months, you would want your kid to date. The person that you wanna date. It's just like we talked about.
Yeah.
It's their son or daughter of God, and, like, it sucks, Breakups aren't good.
No,
Even
they
if they're
suck.
cordial, even if they're the
No
worst
matter what
thing.
happens, they suck.
So, just know that it's gonna suck, but it's gonna get better, and the little things that you do, everything, the little choices that you do that make you feel better, like, I think that's the smartest thing to do. Getting into your scriptures, starting that habit again.
Yeah.
Start the good habits. It doesn't matter if you're doing it for them or you're doing it for you.
Yeah.
At least that's what my therapist says. I don't know. That's out there. No matter the reason you're doing it, if you're doing it, eventually you're either going to love it or you can stop. As long as it's
Yeah.
not harmful. I'm not, that's the biggest thing. If it's good habits like going to the gym, eating healthy, reading scriptures, eventually you're going to be like, wow, dude, I feel better. And it just kind of hits you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
So, Holland, I just want to thank you for coming on. And I'd just love it if you'd share your testimony on God's timing and how you're trusting Him in relationships and how it's kind of shaped your life.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This was fun. Y People don't know, but we have conversations like this all the time, and it was cool to put it in this setting and perspective, but, I don't know, I feel so grateful um to be able to do this and just for the gospel. And even though things are really hard, they will get better. And there is light at the end of the tunnel no matter what. And relationship wise and anything in life. Heavenly Father doesn't give us trials. He knows we like that we can't handle, you know. You're going to be given a trial because you know you can handle it. And it may not always feel like that, but it's so true. And when you take it a day at a time, it'll go by so fast. And just really quick story is a lot of people don't know this, but I hadn't gone to the temple in 7 or 8 years. I The last time I had gone was I was, like, a sophomore in high school, I wanna say. I'd gone with the young women, and, it was a long time coming, and this was after that breakup and being in BYU, Idaho, and moving back home and everything, and I just turned 22, um, but a year ago on my 21st birthday, I got to go to the temple for the first time in 7 or 8 years, and then back in January, I got endowed, and there isn't anything I wanna change in this world about those decisions or those choices or what got me there, but I know through those experiences, that's why I'm at where I'm at now, and I wouldn't have it any other way, and I know God has a plan for everyone, and your spouse will come. It just takes time, and you just have to be patient and loving and understanding and all those amazing things, and it's gonna happen, and yeah.
Love that. Thank you, Holland, for that. Just want to close once again. She is single, so
Right.
sorry. I know I didn't want to ruin that, but I
No,
had
you're
to.
fine. I love it.
Um,
Jesse's single too, just so you know.
so now you got me flustered. But
Love you,
guys, if
buddy.
you love this episode, make sure to hit that share button, follow button. We love you guys, and check us out on Instagram, TikTok. If you want to be a part of this show, we'd love for you to DM or reach out to us at contact@thediariesofadailydisciple.com. And I just want to leave you with real people, real struggles, real faith. Until next time.